Salvete. Today we're continuing lesson 10. We're going to talk about the nominative, subject, and predicate a little bit today. We've talked a lot about nouns over the last few weeks, but we'll just kind of review, and we'll do pages 114, 115, and 116 together in this video. So first of all, on page 114, you've been asked these questions a lot. What are the 5 noun cases that we've talked about? Remember, they're nom, gen, date, ac, habla. We'll write those up here. And let's just quickly review what these do. Nominative is the subject of a sentence. Genitive is possessive, so if we want to say that a noun has something. Dative, we usually use to or for, and this is usually the indirect object. Accusative is the direct object, and then ablative we usually use with or by, and that is usually the object of a preposition. So we'll say object prep, object of a preposition. All right, today we're going to talk about the nominative case, so that's the subject of the sentence. And then we're going to talk about something called the predicate. So just want to take a look at what your book says here. The nominative case, it can be the subject or the predicate. Okay, so what are a subject and a predicate? Remember, the subject is the word in the sentence that's doing the action. And a predicate is a word that describes the subject. So we could say Luke, comma, a great magister, and this is a predicate because it's describing the subject. And so it's another word for the subject. So we could say Luke is a magister, and this is a predicate describing the subject. And so a subject and a predicate are basically doing the same thing in the sentence. You could almost think of them both as subjects, but the predicate is describing the subject. So on the top of page 115, we'll start putting some nouns in the correct case for nominative. So of course, nominative is the first case, so when you memorize a word like dux, ducus, you're memorizing the nominative and genitive. So it should be pretty easy to remember what the nominative case is. The only slightly tricky part is that we'll do singular and plural. So first of all, for dux, they want the nominative singular, and so that is just dux. Next is aqua, and they want the nominative plural. So aqua, that's a first declension, so I, that's singular, and then plural starts I, arum, is, os, is. So I is that first one, that nominative plural, so it would just be aquae. Oh, almost didn't get the E on there. Aquae. And then those next 3, I think you can do yourselves. So tabernaculum, loc, and malleus. So you can go ahead and do those 3. And then next what we're going to do is we're going to practice putting the correct nominative ending on. So we're going to practice whether it's singular or plural, putting the correct ending on. So the first sentence they have here is Duke something, and this kind of gives it away a little bit, but that's okay. So we have Duke blank, we're going to put the ending on, and then hostem, and then this is a verb that I don't think you've learned yet, ducant. And so this would be from a verb ducit, meaning this would mean he leads. And so let's look at what's going on here. So this is the enemy. So hostem is enemy, and dukant is lead, but you'll notice it's got this nt ending on. So remember when we learned the present tense verb endings, it went o, s, t for singular, and then imus, itus, unt. So like scribo, scribis, scribit, scribimus, scribitus, scribunt. And remember that means, so for scribo, that would mean I write, you write, he, she, or it writes, and then we write, you all write, and they write. So that's just a reminder to remind you that this nt ending, dukant, would mean they lead. And so what you can do here in this sentence, I underlined this, the direct object, but what you can do is you can underline the verb, okay? And now you see this is a third person plural, right? Dukant. And so since the verb is plural, the noun must also be plural. And this is the subject, so someone, some type of leader is leading the enemy, and so since it says they lead the enemy, this must be leaders plural. And since it's leaders plural, this is a third declension noun, the nominative plural ending is ace. So ducase, hostem, dukant. So the leaders, they lead the enemy. Okay, let's do the next one together. All right, so we have the next one here. Dominus is the nominative singular. Dominus tabernaculum intrat. Okay, so here's the verb again. Now remember, O-S-T, this is T, so this has to be third person singular. So we know this has to be singular as well. So he enters the tabernacle. Who enters? The Lord. And we're going to put the nominative singular ending. So Dominus tabernaculum intrat. Hopefully this is starting to make a little bit more sense. So what you want to do is you want to look at the verb ending, find out whether it's singular or plural, and then put the correct ending on the subject. All right, let's do one more together, and then you can do the last one on your own. All right, we have femin aquam bibit. You'll remember that this is woman. In the nominative singular, it would be femina, feminae. That would be the nominative and the genitive. And the woman is bibbiting. She's drinking water. Now, what ending is this? Remember our present tense verb endings, O-S-T, that's singular, so this is singular. So she drinks water. This has to be singular, so we put the nominative singular ending on, femina. So the woman, she drinks water, and that's all in the singular. Okay, the last one is going to be male, which is from malius, malii. Malius clavos pugnant. And so you want to look at pugnant and see, is that a singular or plural verb ending? And then put the correct ending on malius. Is it going to be malius, the nominative singular, or is it going to be malii, the nominative plural? Because that's a second declension noun. So do that one, write out the translation, and then we'll move on to the next one. So you can pause the video here if you want, finish that, and then we'll move on to talking about the predicate. All right, so we're going to move on to talking about the predicate. So at the bottom of page 115, we're going to give a definition of the predicate. And the definition that we're going to use for a predicate is the predicate is a noun that describes the subject and is connected to the subject with a being or linking verb. So on the top of page 116, there's a box where we can review our being linking verbs. So you can write those out there. Remember, singular, we'll just chant them all together. Sum es est, sumus estis sunt. And that means I am, you are, he, she, or it is, we are, you all are, they are. So you can write those down in that box. And then down at the bottom of page 116, there's a list of sentences, and we're going to translate those into Latin. We're going to translate them from English to Latin, and using a being linking verb, and we're going to see how the subject and the predicate work. So the first is, the milk is not water. So the milk is the subject, lock, and then lock, aqua. So notice these are both nominative singular, and then non-est. So the milk, it is not, so non-est, it is not water. So you see how we connected that with a being linking verb, and it's the milk is not water. So the predicate is describing the subject. Here it's describing what the subject is not, but it's connected to the subject with a being or linking verb. Next one is, the masters are leaders. So we have the masters or lords are dominee, so we've got a nominative plural this time. The masters are leaders, so the masters, leaders, and then now we need the being linking verb for they are. And so sum est, sumus estis, sunt is the correct one. That's the third person plural. So the masters, they are leaders. And so you see more clearly here how this is the predicate, and it describes the subject, and it's connected with the being linking verb. All right, we'll do one more together, and then you can do the last two on your own. So next we have, the brain is tired. So we have cerebrum, fessum, and then the brain, we want to say the brain, it is tired. So we want the third person singular, so sum est is what we want. The brain, cerebrum, it is tired. So here we have a true adjective describing the subject acting as a predicate. So this is the subject, this is the predicate, and here's the being linking verb connecting them. So you can do the last two on your own. The hammer is not a nail, and the leader is Sisera. And so you want to use your vocabulary words from this week and the correct being linking verb to put those together. And pay careful attention in number 4, because you're saying the hammer is not a nail. So you need to use the word non for not. Okay, and then in the fabula, you can circle any nouns that are in the nominative case, and you can mark them with an NS for nominative subject or an NP for nominative predicate. And that will help prepare you to translate the fabula together in class this week. All right, that's all I have for you this week. I hope that the nominative case makes a little bit more sense, and we'll talk about it a little bit more in class this week and keep working on it together. All right, I hope you have a good week and that your studying goes well. Vale.